The Galactic Empire had conquered thousands of worlds. It ruled with fear, power, and strict control. In all its history, one thing was always clear: humans were weak. They had no great technology, no powerful weapons, no special abilities. They were ordinary. Supreme Commander Varkos of the Exalthar Empire believed this too. He had crushed armies, destroyed planets, and bent entire species to his will. But there was one thing he had never done: visited a human city. Now, standing on Earth for the first time, he looked around in disgust. No advanced war machines, no grand towers of steel, just small buildings, glowing streetlights, and a gentle breeze carrying the smell of food. His guards led him into a small restaurant, the only one still operating after the Empire's takeover. The neon sign flickered. Inside, a few humans sat at tables, eating and laughing as if they were not under alien rule. It irritated him. A human waiter appeared, a young man with tired eyes but a bright smile. "Welcome. Take a seat, sir." Varkos glared at him. "You dare give me orders?" The waiter didn't flinch. "No orders, sir. Just good service." Varkos sat, his huge, armored frame barely fitting the chair. His guards stood behind him, weapons ready. The waiter placed a menu in front of him, completely unfazed. No fear, no trembling hands. Just that same annoying smile. Varkos frowned. "You know who I am?" "Of course," the waiter said, pouring him a glass of water. "Supreme Commander of the Exalthar Empire, conqueror of worlds, feared across the galaxy." "Did I miss anything?" Varkos studied him. "You don't seem afraid." "Should I be?" Varkos smirked. "Arrogant human. Your kind is weak. You serve because you have no choice." The waiter shrugged. "Maybe. But I serve with a smile." Varkos scoffed and turned to the menu. "What is this burger? A classic," the waiter said. "Juicy meat, fresh bread, melted cheese. You'll love it." Varkos narrowed his eyes. "I eat only the finest meals from the greatest chefs in the galaxy." "Then you're in for a surprise," the waiter said, still smiling. "One burger coming up." Varkos watched him walk away. The human was different. Most species trembled before him, yet this man acted as if he was serving an ordinary customer. It was irritating and intriguing. Minutes later, the burger arrived, steaming and rich with unfamiliar spices. The smell alone made Varkos pause. His kind never ate human food. It was beneath them. But something about the waiter's confidence made him take a bite. The taste exploded in his mouth. It was unbelievable. His eyes widened slightly before he forced himself to look unimpressed. "Decent," he muttered. The waiter grinned. "Glad you like it." Varkos ate in silence. The restaurant had no fancy decorations, no robotic servants, no artificial perfection like the Empire's grand halls. And yet, something about it felt comfortable. He finished his meal, wiping his mouth. "You run this place, human?" The waiter nodded. "My family has owned it for generations." Varkos leaned forward. "Your people are conquered. Your world belongs to us. Yet, you smile. Why?" The waiter met his gaze. "Because a smile changes everything. It makes food taste better. It makes people feel welcome. Even enemies." Varkos felt a flicker of something he didn't recognize. No soldier had ever spoken to him like this. No conquered race had ever looked him in the eye without fear. His communicator buzzed. "Commander, your ship is ready." Varkos stood. "How much for the meal?" The waiter waved a hand. "On the house." Varkos frowned. "Why?" The waiter chuckled. "Because I want you to come back." For the first time in years, Varkos had no words. He turned and left without another glance. As he stepped outside, his guards whispered among themselves. "Commander, should we burn this place down?" "It is an act of defiance." Varkos looked back at the restaurant, where the waiter was already serving another customer, smiling as always. "No," Varkos said. "Let it be." Then he walked away, still tasting the best meal he had ever had. And for the first time in his life, He wondered if humans were weak or if they were the strongest species in the galaxy. The Celestial Star was the most famous restaurant in the galaxy. Only the richest and most powerful aliens could dine there. Its food was legendary, its service flawless. But the restaurant had a secret. Among the advanced AI waiters and elite alien staff, there was one human, the last human waiter in the galaxy. His name was Daniel. Most customers ignored him. To them, humans were a weak and forgotten species. But Daniel didn't mind. He moved through the grand dining hall, serving food with quiet precision, always wearing a polite smile. Tonight, the restaurant was buzzing. A high-ranking warlord, Lord Xeric of the Drow Dominion, had arrived. He was a feared conqueror, known for destroying planets without hesitation. His body was covered in thick, spiked armor, his 4 red eyes scanning the room with suspicion. Daniel watched from a distance as Xerac took his seat. The warlord's guards surrounded him, their weapons hidden but ready. The atmosphere in the restaurant grew tense. The head waiter, a tall, silver-skinned alien, approached Daniel. "You. Serve him." Daniel didn't argue. He picked up a tray and walked toward the warlord's table. The guards tensed, but Xerac raised a hand, signaling them to stand down. Daniel placed the menu in front of him. "Welcome to the Celestial Star. May I recommend tonight's special?" Xerac glared at him. "A human? They still allow your kind to work here?" Daniel nodded. "I'm the last one." Xerac smirked. "A survivor." He picked up the menu, scanning it with disinterest. "Bring me your best dish. And be quick." Daniel nodded and walked toward the kitchen. As he passed a table, he overheard whispers. "He shouldn't be serving Xeric," an alien muttered. "He'll get himself killed," another replied. Daniel ignored them. He had served dangerous beings before. He knew how to handle them. Inside the kitchen, the chefs worked fast, preparing a dish worthy of the warlord. But Daniel's focus wasn't just on the food. He had noticed something strange. One of Xeric's guards had slipped a small vial into the warlord's drink. A deadly poison. Daniel's heart pounded. He had seen many things while working here, but this was different. Someone wanted Xerac dead. For a moment, he considered staying quiet. Xeric was a monster, responsible for the deaths of millions. If he died, the galaxy might be better off. But Daniel was a waiter. His job was to serve, not to judge. He took a deep breath, picked up the tray, and walked back to the table. He placed the food in front of Xerac, then reached for the poisoned drink. With steady hands, he accidentally knocked it over. The liquid spilled across the table. Xerac's eyes flared. "You fool. That was my drink." Daniel remained calm. "Apologies, my lord. Let me bring you a fresh one." Xerac growled but waved him away. The guards didn't suspect anything. Daniel walked back to the bar, his mind racing. Someone inside the restaurant had tried to kill Xerac, and they would try again. He poured a new drink. He noticed movement in the reflection of the glass. One of Xerac's own guards was reaching for a hidden blade. Daniel turned just as the guard lunged. With the reflexes of someone who had spent years dodging angry customers, Daniel sidestepped the attack. The blade missed him by inches. The room went silent. Xerac rose from his seat, his red eyes locking onto his guard. "What is this?" The assassin knew he was caught. He spun, aiming to stab Xerac instead. But before he could strike, Daniel did something unexpected. He threw the tray. The metal disc spun through the air and slammed into the assassin's face. He staggered back, and in that moment, Xerac grabbed him by the throat. The warlord lifted the traitor off the ground. "Who sent you?" he growled. The assassin struggled, but Xerac's grip was too strong. With a final twist, he ended the traitor's life. The restaurant remained silent. Then, Xerac turned to Daniel. "You knew," he said. Daniel simply nodded. "I just served the customers, my lord." Xerac studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he let out a deep, rumbling laugh. "A human saved my life." He shook his head in disbelief. "Tell me, waiter, do you fear me?" Daniel looked him in the eye. I fear bad service more. Sirach laughed again and clapped a heavy hand on Daniel's shoulder. You amuse me, human. I will not forget this. He dropped a small, glowing emblem on the table, his personal insignia. Bring me my meal, he ordered. And another drink. Daniel nodded and walked back to the bar. As he poured the new drink, he glanced at the emblem. It was a symbol of power, something most beings would kill to have. But Daniel just smiled, placed the drink on the tray, and returned to his job. Because at the end of the day, he was just a waiter. The Orcs Empire had never lost a war. Their massive fleets crushed planets. Their soldiers were unstoppable. Every species that stood against them either surrendered or was wiped out. Now they had reached Earth. Supreme General Vorak stood on the bridge of his warship, looking down at the blue planet. Begin the invasion, he ordered. Thousands of dropships roared through the atmosphere. Zarthan soldiers landed in human cities, weapons ready, expecting resistance. But there was none. Instead, they saw something strange. Humans were smiling. As the soldiers marched through the streets, humans greeted them with open doors. Shops remained open, cafes served food, and music played in the background. There were no barricades, no screams, no frightened civilians running for cover. A Zarthan officer growled. They mock us. We should destroy everything. But Vorak frowned. Something felt wrong. The soldiers entered a diner, expecting an ambush. Instead, a waitress walked up, carrying a tray. Table for how many? She asked cheerfully. The officer hesitated. We are invaders, she smiled. That's nice, dear. But you still need to eat, right? Before they knew it, they were seated, food in front of them. No poison. No tricks. Just warm, delicious meals. The same thing happened everywhere. Soldiers stormed into a bakery, and the baker handed them fresh bread. They raided a bookstore, and the owner gave them free books. One soldier demanded to know why. The old bookstore owner simply smiled. Because good service is important. The Xarthans didn't know what to do. They had invaded countless worlds, but never had they been welcomed. As days passed, something unexpected happened. The soldiers relaxed. They started talking to humans, sitting in cafes, enjoying meals. Some even played games with children. But the real problem came when orders arrived from the warship. Destroy the city, Vorak commanded. His officers hesitated. My lord, one of them said, the humans. They are kind. They do not resist. Vorak slammed his fist on the table. They are using psychological warfare. They must be hiding their weapons. But no weapons were found. No secret army. Just people smiling, offering tea, laughing, and living their lives. Something inside the soldiers started to break. How could they kill a species that never fought back? That never showed hate? And then it happened. One by one, Zarthan soldiers removed their helmets. They walked among humans, no longer as invaders, but as guests. When Vorak saw this from the warship, he roared in fury. They have turned my army into cowards. I will burn this planet myself. He prepared the main cannon to fire. But before he could give the final command, he received a message. My lord, said one of his highest generals, standing in the middle of a human marketplace. We cannot destroy them. WHAT? Vorak bellowed. The general smiled. They have won, my lord. And we are happy to let them. Vorak's claws dug into his throne. His entire army had surrendered not through battle, but through kindness. The war was over, and the humans never even fired a single shot. The Grand Galactic Bazaar was the largest marketplace in the universe. Every species, from the smallest insectoid traders to the towering warlords of the Zarkon Empire, came here to buy and sell. It was a place of strict rules, no fighting, no cheating, and most importantly, the customer is always right. And at the heart of the bazaar was Ethan Carter, the only human shopkeeper in the entire marketplace. Ethan's store, Carter's Curiosities, sold everything: ancient relics, rare alien spices, and even mysterious artifacts no one understood. But more importantly, Ethan had something no other merchant had: a reputation. He never cheated. He never lied. And no matter who walked into his shop, he treated them like the most important customer in the galaxy. Even General Korath, the ruthless warlord of the Drekner Empire. Korath was a nightmare in battle, feared across countless worlds. His massive, armored frame barely fit through Ethan's door. His glowing red eyes scanned the shop, unimpressed. "You sell worthless junk, human," he growled. Ethan smiled politely. "And yet, you're here. What can I help you with today?" Korath slammed a metal fist on the counter. "I need a celestial core, human. The heart of a dying star." Ethan folded his arms. "Rare item. Expensive." Korath bared his fangs. "Do you think I care about price?" Ethan didn't flinch. "No. But I do." Silence. The air crackled with tension. The other customers froze, watching the exchange. No one ever spoke to Korath like that. The warlord growled. "Do you have it or not?" Ethan reached under the counter and pulled out a small, glowing orb. It pulsed like a heartbeat, radiating immense power. Korath's eyes widened. "Impossible," Ethan smirked. "I have connections." The warlord leaned forward. "Name your price." Ethan met his gaze. "A deal, instead." Korath narrowed his eyes. "What kind of deal?" Ethan tapped the counter. "No wars in the bazaar. No raids on merchant ships. No threats to my shop. In exchange, this is yours." Korath laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. "You think you can bargain with me, human?" Ethan simply smiled. "The customer is always right." Korath studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, he nodded. "Agreed." The warlord turned, marching toward the exit. Before stepping outside, he glanced back. "You are either very bold or very foolish. Human." Ethan chuckled. "Maybe both." And just like that, Korath, the most feared warlord in the galaxy, walked away, leaving the shop untouched. From that day forward, no one dared mess with Carter's curiosities. Because if the warlord of the Drekner Empire respected the shop, then every other customer had to do the same. Because, after all, the customer is always right. The interrogation room was cold and silent. The walls were made of dark metal, designed to absorb sound. A single light flickered above, casting long shadows. Across the table sat Commander HFY of the Dresken Empire, one of the galaxy's most feared military leaders. His reptilian eyes studied the prisoner in front of him, a human. The man was calm. Too calm. His name was Daniel Reeves, and he had been captured during a failed ambush against the Draskan fleet. His hands were cuffed, his face slightly bruised. But instead of fear, he had something else. A smile. Zalvek leaned forward. "Do you know where you are, human?" Daniel nodded, still smiling. "Of course. A Dresken warship. Deep in enemy space. No chance of escape." Zalvek bared his sharp teeth. "Then why do you smile?" Daniel chuckled. "Because you don't know why I'm here." The commander's claws tapped against the table. "You were captured during an attack. Your fleet is destroyed. Your mission has failed. What else is there to know?" Daniel leaned back, relaxed. "You think I was part of an attack?" Zalvek frowned. "What do you mean?" Daniel's smile widened. "I let you capture me." The room went silent. Then Zalvek laughed. A deep, guttural sound. "You expect me to believe that? A lone human, captured on purpose?" Daniel shrugged. "Believe what you want." Zalvek slammed a fist on the table. "You are alone. Helpless. Your people do not even know where you are." Daniel tilted his head. "Are you sure?" Zalvek hesitated. Something about the way Daniel spoke. It was wrong. Too confident. Too certain. The commander stood up, signaling his guards. "Enough games. You will tell me everything." The doors opened. More Dresken soldiers entered, weapons ready. One of them held a syringe filled with a glowing blue liquid. A truth serum. Daniel sighed. Torture? That's disappointing. Zalvek smirked. You will talk, human. Daniel shook his head, still smiling. I already have. Zalvek froze. What? Daniel's voice was calm. I've been sitting here for hours. Talking. Distracting. Keeping you busy. The commander's eyes widened. He turned to the guards. Check the BOOM. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. A soldier ran inside, panicked. Commander! The human fleet they found us? They're attacking. Zalvek turned back to Daniel. The human was still smiling. How? The commander growled. Daniel chuckled. You said it yourself. My people don't know where I am. So I told them. Zalvek's mind raced. The interrogation. The talking. The delay. You had a tracker, he realized. Daniel nodded. Tiny thing. In my tooth. Activated when I spoke too much. He leaned forward. And I talked a lot. Zalvek roared in fury. Kill him! Before the guards could move, the walls exploded. Human soldiers stormed inside, weapons blazing. The Druscan guards fell within seconds. Daniel stood up, shaking off his cuffs. His smile never faded. A human officer rushed to him. Captain, are you all right? Daniel stretched. Perfect timing. The officer grinned. Told you we'd come for you. Daniel turned to Zalvek, who was now on his knees, defeated. The commander stared at him. You planned this, Daniel? Smirked. From the moment I smiled. And with that, he walked out, leaving Zalvek to watch his warship burn. Because in the end, a smile can be the most dangerous weapon of all.